Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jason Bobko. I'm the manager of the Inspections, Compliance Enforcement, and Operator Certification Unit in the Drinking Water section. I'm glad you could join us here today. We're going to talk today about plugging the knowledge leak at your water system. And what that really means is it's a way for you to capture all the information that your operator or former owner or any of your staff that works there has about your water system, as well as all the compliance data you need to know about your water system to be in compliance at time of inspection. So just a few reminders for GoToWebinar. You are going to be getting a professional development hour for today's 1 hour long session. You'll see that in the handout section. Webcams are disabled. You're all right now muted. If you have any questions, you could please use the chat box on the right-hand side to send us questions. You can send questions at any time, and we'll answer them after the end of each section, each speaker. You can also raise your hands to speak or ask a question if you need to. And if you have any additional questions, please email azdeq@azdeq.gov. All right, to get this going, we're going to talk a little bit first about the water operators' workforce trends across the country and in Arizona. So according to the Brookings Metro Renewing the Water Workforce study done in June 2018, there are a lot of different professions needed to run a public water system or wastewater system. Operators make up a large part of that industry. In a study commissioned by American Water Works Association, it was estimated that 55% of water utility employees are water operators. So they make up the bulk of it. Of the remainder, 20% work in customer service and metering, and 25% work in administration of various kinds. But the key factor there is certainly that 55% of all employed by water utilities are the operators. So this is another study or research done for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You'll see that in the United States, there are 123,730 certified operators in the country. Each state is responsible for administering their own operator certification program. Most states use the ABC exams that you all are familiar with. Some states have their own style of exam, but they're all done by testing and certified by the state agency themselves. In Arizona, we employ, or you all combined employ, about 5,400 operators in the state. Throughout the entire series of counties we have, the most are employed in Pima with 630 operators, Pinal with 492. To no surprise, Maricopa 2,548 operators. Yavapai has 294, and Yuma is 217. So these are, obviously the most populated areas with the most water systems out there. So it's no surprise that there's a lot of operators in those counties. Another historic trend for the employment of water and wastewater treatment plant operators and system operators, you can see that the U.S. job average has been on a slight incline from early 2004 on, and it's still right on the rise. And in Arizona, we had a spike around 2013-14, and I can tell you that was a lot to do with infrastructure improvement that was going on, and we had a lot more water plants and systems coming in with all the building that was happening. So then we see a drop down around a few years later, and we're back up on the rise again. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. So in this one, you'll see the percent change in employment over the past several years. So water and wastewater treatment plant operators and system operators are the ones there. In the US, we had a slight gain by about 5%, 5.2%. In Arizona, we're looking at a gain of about 16.8%. Again, this is from 2019 projected out to 2029. So this is going to be how many operators we need to have in the state over the next 10 years. In this chart, you'll see that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, again, over the projected values is 39 states are predicted to be losing operator jobs. Okay, some are going to be at a significant gain. Utah 10%, plus 10%, and Michigan is going to be minus 11%. Arizona, we're ranking 31 out of the states, and we're looking at losing 4% of the operators in the next 10 years. So with this one, we're going to see through that loss, 7 counties are predicted to be losing operator jobs. And seeing that 2 percentages are really based on a smaller number, changes with such a small number in some of these counties that even a slight loss could have a big impact on systems' abilities to hire and employ operators. So you see here, this is where it gets really into the nut and bolt of what we're talking about today is with a median age of 42.8 years. Water workers are slightly older than the national median of 42.2 years. That's across all occupations. Some water occupations are significantly older, including architectural and engineering managers with an average of 49 years old, machinists at 48 years old, and water treatment operators at 46 years old. The percentage of age does not reflect percentage of knowledge, though. So we would naturally find larger share of knowledge in older workers because they've been in the workforce longer. That's called the silver tide of employment. People 55 or plus, 20% over the next 10 years, up to 50% will be in that range. So just 10.2% of water workers are under the age of 24, compared to 12.5% of all workers nationally. And what this really means is that as the water operator workforce ages, I've personally found that a lot of the folks, they just don't retire when they have the time to, the ability to, right? They've met their rule of 80, or they're just at that point, and there's nobody there to backfill. And the operator community at large, I find is a very altruistic bunch. They really do silently go about their business and ensuring the water is safe to drink, and it's a higher calling, in a lot of respects. And you'll see that dedication of staying there well beyond where they would like to retire is evident. And what we really need to do is have more folks coming into the industry, which is a national challenge, and using those more seasoned, experienced employees to mentor them. And the tool that EPA has created, that we're going to talk about in a little bit, will help water system operators and owners, and even the contract companies that do it as well. If you could create one of these workbooks for every one of your water systems, you'd have an excellent ability to really help the system maintain itself and be in compliance at time of inspection, and prepare it, future-proof it really, for new operators coming in. So there's the essence of the tool. So 10% of workers are going to leave or transfer out of the industry each year. Okay, from 2016 to 2026, the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, projects that 10.6% of water workers each year on average will either permanently leave or transfer out of their current jobs. They've also projected that 8% of existing water operators will need to be replaced annually between 2016 and 2026. The national average is 11%. They predict 8% for just water operators. The jobs market will have changing demands for skilled workers, and as some industries gear up, others will have to compete for the same workforce. So with just 10% of the water workers being under the age of 24, we have to be aware that the drive or push for folks to get that college degree, instead of going into the trades, it really isn't that necessary for people. I know the certification, it really is, the level 1 certifications are designed for folks that come straight out of high school, sit for the exam, test, pass, and get into the industry. And it's just not a very well-known industry. And that's part of this kind of the secrecy behind, what happens behind the scenes. People don't really know what goes on. They open their tap and water comes out clean, they could drink it. And they take it for granted that just happens. They really don't know there's a big industry supporting that. It's difficult to find someone who's skilled in the new technologies. And the technologies are changing. It used to be that a system would build a treatment plant and it would last 30 years, lifespan. And what we're finding is that a lot of these systems are, of course, designed to fail. They work for 10 years, let's say, and then they got to be replaced. But there's always a new technology to take its place, and the new workforce has to be prepared for that. There's also changing job duties, right, of current workers, and they need to be able to stand up and meet those challenges. So there's industries, and you all know Arizona, such as mining, right, that have drawn away qualified operators, right, for higher paying positions. Mines actually have to meet water standards as well, not only for if they have their own drinking water system, but also what they discharge. So they have to meet water standards there as well. So there's a whole different type of treatment process that goes on for that. The share of Americans too that own smartphones now is 81%. It was just 35% back in 2011. So there's a high risk if there's only one operator out of a system. So right now, out of the 1,520 public water systems in Arizona, 1,080 of them only have one operator on record. That's 71%. And what that means is that that operator chooses to leave, that system's not going to have an operator anymore. And that operator may also take all that knowledge of the system with him. And some of the owners are remote owners. They maybe own they're a investment company. They own a property. Could be an RV park. Could be a motel. There's different types of water systems out there, and they rely on their operator for absolutely everything. So when that person leaves, they take that knowledge with them. So with all that pressure, on the operators and the owners, the future is going to depend on the ability to transfer that knowledge to the new workers and be sure that the owners have a significant knowledge of their water system and the requirements of their water system. So why are we here today? So you all represent water systems in Arizona, and these challenges are real. We will introduce a tool that's going to help you define your system, identify areas of vulnerability, and be successful. Because what we all are here to do, ADEQ, water operators, water systems, we're all here to ensure that every resident in Arizona has safe, clean drinking water. That's our mission, that's the goal, and we share that with you every day. That's why we do what we do. So we're going to introduce the EPA, they call it a knowledge retention tool. And for me, really, in my experience, I've operated 4 different systems in Arizona and a larger system back on the East Coast. And what this tool really represents to me is it's a comprehensive data management system, okay? And that's what it really is. And you'll see as we go into it, because it allows you to capture all the data you need to open up a spreadsheet, or in this case, the workbook we have, and you'll be able to pull up all the information about your water system in minutes, as opposed to trying to dig through file cabinets or shift through papers on your desk or pull binders off the shelves and try to find information. If you fill out this tool using it, you'll be really setting yourself up for success. So what does this tool do? So this spreadsheet, it helps owners, operators, and maintenance people just consolidate that system info into that one location. Okay, it's designed to assist in personnel transition, like we talked about, and also has a wide variety of information for a new operator or even the owner, especially to manage the system. It is intended for knowledge transfer, responsibilities, and expertise, right, across your department. And it's really good for, you know, some systems. I do know in the past, I've been with ADEQ 4 years. I personally have seen, I don't know, about a dozen or so operators go ahead and retire when they had the opportunity. Some had brought their mentors in up through the system, right under working with them, and they were like solo operations. But they brought in a son-in-law. I've seen a son come up. I've seen, you know, family friends get into the industry, all through the process. And a lot of that knowledge transfer was just done, you know, through rhetoric, just through talking to one another. So this is also intent to help transition the responsibilities to different people as well. And what you don't want to do is have anything forgotten, because when it comes to water systems, forgetting to do things obviously can lead to public health threats. It could lead to possible contamination events, and the very least of the water system concern, the very least of their concern should be getting a violation, right? Because that's the end result, right, of having a contamination event or, you know, mismonitoring. So the end result is the least of your worries should be getting a violation. The biggest concern should be preventing a public health issue. So it's also, the sheet's also designed to document the various actions that you complete, right, throughout the process of your daily record keeping. Again, I'm gonna skip ahead because I do want to get right to the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet has two types of data collection, right? You'll see it's going to be general information, quick response information. Community water systems out there, you're all responsible for maintaining your emergency operations plan. There's a portion on here where you could put that plan right in it. You can link it to it. You can actually paste it if you like, but you could also put a link to it and maintain your system information electronically like that. Also going to talk about system operation and administration of your system. And what that really means is, you know, are you a regulated system by the ACC? Do you set rates for your meter rates for water consumption? Who is your administrative contact? Who is the contact at ADEQ that you talk to? So these are what we mean by administration. You'll see more about that. And this spreadsheet also has a handoff checklist, and it's going to be used to track the completion of each spreadsheet. So as you go through it, you'll see you can complete the information on each of the sheets. It's going to be along the bottom of the spreadsheet. In each case, there's one or more tables to fill out. Look at the instructions at the top of each of these sheets to really understand their contents. You'll see in the handout section, there's 3 handouts. Again, I'll mention it again. One of them it's a PDF that has a link to the EPA website. Now, EPA put out this tool, and they also put out an instructional video that helps you fill out the tool. So our goal here today is to familiarize you with this tool and let you know it exists. And then you could actually use that EPA video and really get a good in-depth understanding of how to fill it out, right? And again, if you want more information, you can contact us. You'll see more information available there for that. And all the information that you would need from us to fill this out, you can actually obtain through Drinking Water Watch. All right, you should be familiar with that. It's on our website. It's a database it's a water quality database, and all your systems information is there. So as you'll see here, you'll go through complete tables with answers, you know, to the prompts. You can add extra rows if you need them. If you already have the information in another location, like in a notebook or a file folder, you can reference that location in the table. And, you know, a lot of this stuff, I just recommend, you know, keep it electronic. Keep it so you always have that most up-to-date version available. When we come out for an inspection, one of the things that we find most often is people cannot find the information, and it's kind of like preparing for that exam. You're kind of cramming in the last minute before we get there, and that's not what we want. You know, we give you plenty of advance notice before we come out, and having a tool like this would be incredibly useful for you to pull up at time of inspection and show us the documentation with just a few clicks of a button. So again, another benefit of this. So you'll see there's going to be the table of contents, and bear with me, we're going to get there. So you'll see all the different sheets that are listed in an Excel spreadsheet. And if some don't apply to you, like filtration or treatment, if you're just a simple groundwater system that maybe doesn't even chlorinate, you just pump the water out of the ground, it's clean, it's safe, it's good to go, then some of these sections you'll just skip because they don't apply to you. Okay, and in our world, we don't leave blank. You know, 0 does not mean blank, blank does not mean 0. So if there's something that doesn't apply to you, you know, for your own sake and for the sake of whoever's going to follow and use this spreadsheet, you would just put a little note saying not applicable. We're a groundwater system that doesn't chlorinate and doesn't treat. So there is something that you would put in there. And I always tell people, this is one of the examples of when you're taking the operator exam, you know, don't leave it blank. Blank instantly means wrong. So I wouldn't leave any section blank, but certainly put a note that if it doesn't apply, say this does not apply. Simple enough. All right, this is what you'll get as you're going through the sheet. It actually tells you the progress that you're making. So if you got to start it and stop because you're busy, you got to run out, you'll know where you left off and come back in, right? It's not something that it's required, but it's something really highly recommended to make it super easy and useful for you to really maintain your system. So now we're going to actually take a look at the spreadsheet. I'll pull it up on the screen here, and we'll go over each of those tabs one by one over the course of the next 40 minutes or so. All right. If you do have any questions, you could certainly contact your CAC, the Compliance Assistance Coordinator for your county, if you're looking for the information to help you fill out this sheet. Okay. And again, you'll see this link here, azdeq.gov. You'll see that as a link to who to contact for each of your counties if you don't know that information already. All right, we're going to move on to the spreadsheet now. And this is what it looks like. So you see here knowledge retention, and it talks about this one, it does talk about, they're very keen on making it oriented to a new person starting off at a water utility. Our angle is that you should have this regardless of whether a new person is starting, because eventually a new person will start. Or you'll go to transfer ownership, let's say, of your system, which does happen. And you'll want to be able to hand off something to them to say, look, here is all the information about my system, kind of like an owner's manual for your car. Okay, so you'll see here the opening page is just the cover, and it talks about introducing you to the spreadsheet, what its purpose is, how to use it. You'll see there's links, okay, that will bring you to different spots in the spreadsheet, and that handoff checklist that I talked about earlier. Okay, and it also has the instructions here for what to do. Next tab is our table of contents that we talked about a little bit, and you'll see here these links bring you directly to those sheets. So if you wanted to go right to sheet 3 for administrative or documents, it brings you right there. Okay, and this one has an example of, you know, what standard operating procedures and such would look like. So there's your table of contents. Again, very quick reference. If you have to pull this up because somebody is looking for, let's say, you know, oh, who do I contact in an emergency? Well, you could simply go pull this up, go to the table of contents and click on quick response, and it'll bring you directly over to that tab for emergencies. Okay, very useful tool. So this is how you use the table of contents. The handoff checklist. Again, this is one where, you know, it says name of separating employee, okay? And it's about who's leaving and what type of knowledge that person is going to impart before they leave, okay? And it's like this. So let's say, you know, Jason Bobko is leaving the XYZ water company. I could fill this out and just say, hey, I'm leaving, 2 weeks notice. Pull up your spreadsheet. Let's go through and make sure all these areas are filled out before I leave. Okay, that's the essence right there. Because what you don't want is for me to leave with that bit of information that is yours. Remember, you're the water system owner. You own this information. This is not anybody's, particular or private info. This is yours. You need to make sure you have this info and it's yours to own. Okay. So that's the handoff checklist. That means handing off from one employee to the next, or even from your current operator, and the owner just wants the info. Use this as that tool to gain that information from your current operator. System overview. This is really a key element to what the whole system's about. What is your system name? And what I mean is your name is, and I don't use a slang name. Use the full name that's given to it, that you have either registered with the ACC or it's on file with ADEQ. Okay, that is your water system name. Public water system ID. This one, I certainly would go through and use the entire AZ04 number. Okay, if you don't know your AZ04 PWS ID, we'll help you find it. Okay, it is on Drinking Water Watch. You should know it. As a water system owner operator, you should certainly absolutely know your PWS ID. There's no excuses for that. Classification type, whether you're a community water system, a transient non-community, or non-transient non-community, you need to know that type as well. Okay, all that information, again, available on Drinking Water Watch. Your water source type, again, surface water. If it is surface water, where are you getting it from? Is it a lake? Is it a stream? Is it a reservoir? Is it a groundwater type? If it is, put groundwater, and there's areas down below where you'll have more information about well numbers. So a well number, that's another one. If it's registered, when it should be, through Department of Water Resources, our sister agency, you'll have a 55 dash number that is associated with your well. So that's one you want to make sure you record as well. Estimated daily water production. All this information is very key for you in knowing the quality, the components of your water system. Okay, number of service connections. Again, most of this information is already available in Drinking Water Watch. So this is a really good exercise and tool for you to go through and fill out, so you have this information readily at hand. Okay, identifying critical customers is important. So hospitals or schools, those are important to know. So when it comes to situations where there's an emergency and there's a water outage, you want to be able to help those emergency services respond and know what critical customers you have on your system. Okay, so if you have a hospital there, they should know that. So if you have a water outage, they know that hospital now also has no water, or that elementary school has no water. So you'll want to know that. Okay, a lot of this information you can find in our Drinking Water Watch. Some you will know only exclusively. Okay, documents. This is where you can link your documents. Okay, all your SOPs. We refer to them as standard work, right? The best, most current way to do a process, right? We have over 200 standard works just in my unit alone on how we do business, right? That way it's always done consistently, regardless of who's doing it. And this is what you want for your water system. You want that continuity and consistency. So if you don't have a standard, if you don't have a process documented, document it. That's what we're talking about. So you can put links to your standard works here, your SOPs. You can put sampling plans, right? One of the things we always ask for at an inspection is, can I see your sampling plans? It's up to you to demonstrate you have them on file for us, because we may have them, but we inspected you 3 years ago. We need to know you have them, and we need to know they're up to date. So keep your logs, sampling plans, other things here. This is what this is for. Any kind of historical reference documents, for example, any kind of past sanitary survey. You should have them. If you don't, we have them. We could always provide you with the most recent one. Okay, we have that on file. That's not a problem. And of course, any kind of key files you have, which is just, and they even give you a definition of what that means. If you click here, it goes down to that section here. And a key file is, just, not to use a pun, but where are the keys to the system? Figuratively, literally, but that information that is critical to the functioning of your system. And then, of course, people. Okay, you want to know the emergency contacts. You want to know the system staff contacts. You want to know what lab are you using. Okay, a lot of systems realize they don't know. The owner may say the operator takes care of it, but the operator then sends it to a third party who then sends it to a lab, and eventually the sample gets to where it has to be. But you want to know that, okay? So these are the information here: contractor contacts, if you have, a well driller you use, or let's say your operator contracts with a maintenance person, you'll want to know that, okay? And they should provide you that information. Also, operator contracts can be part of this document section. That's another one I forgot to mention is on our ADEQ website, we have a owner operator contract template that we provide that lists the minimum requirements that an operator needs to perform in order to be contracted with your system. Okay, so we provide that information there, and not a lot of operators, owners are aware of that, but there are minimum requirements operators need to do to be operating a system. So these are the tabs that I will talk about. I'm going to hand it off now to one of my inspectors. You may know him, Steve Vogel, been with us many years. So Steve, you can take it away.
All right, hopefully I'm muting myself. I'll be going over the next 9 tabs, and the first tab is number 5. I call these sheets, and this is source water. And within the source water sheet, there are 3 tables that can be filled out. Not all of them are necessary, but of course the very first one is asking you your source and type of source. If you're a water system, you must have a source. It's either going to be a surface water, it's going to be groundwater. You could just have a consecutive connection with a neighboring system, and that is your source. Well, you're going to want to know the location and the name of these sources. So within this table here, you can put down each name of your source water, the location of this source water, and some of the more odd things would be the watershed. If you know the watershed, the type of contamination within that watershed can also be shared on this table here. If the watershed has rights or an ownership of a land that your well may be on, you're going to want to know the information on how to get access to your well if it's on a land owned by a individual. Then there's going to be known source point pollution. And if you're with surface water, a lot of times this is a yearly event with water runoff into your reservoir from farmlands nearby, or just mining industry could be polluting your system. So you're going to want to know what type and how often this might happen. And that may show the area of influence. So there's a lot of different things. I mean, with source water, you can get blue-green algae growing. That's going to be something that is a yearly occurrence, and you're going to want to be aware of it, or the new person would need to be aware that that could happen and what to do about it. As you scroll down here, Jason, you can get to the next table, and that would be for your source water monitoring. So what are you monitoring for? Where are you sampling at for that? And it describes the monitoring process and how frequently you're going to do it. I'm not sure whether or not this will have lab information. As Jason, if you can scroll over to see if that is, I'm telling you what lab is being used for your sampling for that source. And as you scroll down to the bottom there, Jason, there's one more table, and I just think it just says additional information down there, that if you have something for additional. So next tab, please, Jason. And the next tab is for emergencies. There you go, quick response emergencies. So this stuff here, you're going to fill in your response documents. Not all of these are going to pertain to everybody. They may not have a town. You might just be in a small rural area that is a party for RV parks, but they do have a water supply. So You may not have a town emergency response plan, but you should, even if you're not a community system. What are you going to tell your people when your water shuts off or is no longer available? Most for campsites are just going to politely ask them to leave, as they have no supply, no water, so they're not going to be able to work it. What else you have? You have the risk assessment. If you have that, you can go with that. Disaster, Pacific, earthquakes could be a disaster. We could have a bad storm, hailstorm could damage equipment that's not protected from that hail. And within this table, there's three of them, or sheet, there's three tables. So you'll look at them for emergencies. So is it going to be a physical emergency? Could it be an electronic issue with electricity? Your source of electricity's gone. Do you have a generator to use? What is the name or type of generator that you'll be using for that emergency? And those are tables down below this quick response table here, that if Jason scrolls down, you'll be able to see that they have even a system alarms. So does your system have an alarm? And as you scroll over, you'll see things like, how do you reset that alarm if it goes off once you fixed your problem or acknowledged your alarm? What other emergencies can you have? And do you have security for that? So some security is just simply calling your local sheriff, since you may be outside a city or town that may not respond. And if you do have a small town or city, is there a police force? I don't think of any system out there that will have their own security force. You know, like, let's deploy our security force. No, you generally want to walk up, and if you see that it is a vandalism and somebody broke in, of course, you don't want to walk right on in there. They may still be there at 1. So, of course, you're going to call a sheriff or the local police and have them lead you in there, because you don't want to be the first one to walk in and find someone lying down on the floor taking a nap. He may be violent. So those things need to be listed. So again, at the bottom there, you'll have emergency generators, what type of generator that may be, what kind of kilowatts is it providing, what type of plugs could you have for that, if you need to have extension cords for it. So all this is important for anyone that steps in and says, all right, I'm going to take responsibility as I am now the new operator. You're going to want to know what steps they have entered down.
Hey, Steve. Hey, this is Jason for a moment. I just want to take the opportunity while we're on this tab to talk about AZ Warn. It's an Arizona Water Wastewater Area Response Network. It is open for membership. People can join it. And what it is, it really is a mutual aid agreement that you join into with this organization. So if your system is experiencing a major problem and you need resources quickly, AZ Warn is the agency that can help with that. Okay, so I always encourage folks, check it out. azwarn.org is their website. Look into it. It's a great option for those systems that if you ever need a backhoe, for instance, heavy machinery, or you need piping quickly because you had a main break. AZ Warn is an organization that has members help each other with that type of stuff. So anyway, I wanted to mention that under emergency. So check that out if you want to. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Jason. That is important. I'm glad you brought that up. We can get to the security tab. I see we ran right by emergency, did we? No, I think we did do emergencies. So security tab. So in there, do you have cameras? Do the cameras record, or is it just something that is on TV that you can watch and see that someone may have broken in, or you might have a major leak going on, you can see that going on? Who's in charge of this operation for security. You want to make sure you contact the right person to go investigate this if you have more than just an operator for the system. Now, with larger systems, they're going to have tests and they're going to do drills for security. And if you do that, there's a spot for how often that happens, who's involved, and who needs to be involved too. So the company has installed a maintenance and maintains this system. The company installs and maintains this system. What is their contact information is in there so that you can quickly identify them and notify them. And, you know, what are the triggers that happens for this too? And of course, you're going to want to be able to know how everything gets reset for that. If we can get on to the next tab there for treatment and disinfection. So filtration for your system. What type of filtration do you have? How frequently is this technique used? How often are the filters backwashed? And when was the last time they were backwashed would be another good spot to send in the date and time that happens. And how often, if you have filters, will that media need to be replaced? So the new operator or employee will know what month or time of year those are replaced. And of course, once you replace it, then it's going to be the last time it was replaced. Date would be entered there. After filtration, you'll have disinfection. If you disinfect, then what type of disinfection is being used? And is it part of the treatment too? Does it treat something to remove a contaminant? So that as well needs to be known also. The frequency this disinfectant needs to be replaced or regenerated if you're making your own disinfection. And of course, there's going to be minor things that you're going to want to know about would be doses, how much, what is the upkeep as your motor can weaken or become to where you start increasing your dose, then you know that that pump probably more than likely will need to be replaced in the near future. And what necessary chemicals and equipment need to be on hand should be listed also. So at the bottom of that table, the next table, would be the treatment method. So if you got some additional treatment methods that going on, where's that location? It's almost a redundancy to what's at the top, but it's just for additional treatment methods. If we can go to now the process and monitoring tab and sampling, within that tab we have two tables: process monitoring sampling, the water quality parameters, when are they measured? So when is it taken? Put in the date, the instrument that is used. You would probably like to see the make and model. And of course, there is a spot for the last time it was calibrated. When was the instrument last calibrated would be that tab there. And is there a standard operating procedure for collecting and processing and monitoring these samples? Now, as you go down to the next table within this tab, it's going to talk about the type of sample collected. You're going to ask the frequency. When's the next time this is going to be conducted? If it's monthly, then generally it's MSSP, which is a microbiological sample siting plan. And where is this plan located? The name of the lab that you guys are using. And it's always nice to have the phone number and all the other information on this lab, and maybe even directions to the facility. And is this kept in a electronic form somewhere? And that is usually the case since you want to print out their chain of custody and other documents that they will accept when you turn in your samples. And then, of course, who does the sampling? And if there's a specific name for that person, since he may be a contractor that comes in and does that sampling, if it's a MAP person, which is the monitoring assistant program that ADEQ puts on out there, then probably more likely the name of the organization. They could send different samplers, so sample or name may not be something specific. And then, of course, they're going to want to know the standard, or you would like to know the standard operating procedure to take samples. So the next tab, we have Systems, Operations, and Supplies. Within that tab, we have three tables: equipment, chemical pumps, or chemical used, and then the pumps used to provide that chemical to the system. So we have a table within there that is the equipment. So the name of the equipment. And it could be a large front-end loader. It could be maybe you have your own hauling truck for water. So you list all that type of equipment there. Where do you park this equipment? What area do you go to find this front-end loader that you might want to use, or even a backhoe? Are there instructions on how to use your equipment, and where is that located? Does the PC equipment require any maintenance? Well, front-end loaders, sometimes once you use them and you put them away, the next time you go to start it up, you found out that it wasn't going to work. So is there a maintenance that is required prior to shutting down that PC equipment so it will work next time that you go to start it up? And of course, how often do you replace this piece of equipment? So pieces can wear out to where it's a yearly thing that you have to buy a new one, or maybe every 10 years do you need to buy one or replace it? And where is the manufacturer located at? Their contact information from phone numbers and addresses are nice to have in that tab. So we're going to go into the chemical part of this. So the name of the chemical. What is the chemical used for? What is the proper dosage for this chemical? And where is the chemical kept and stored so that you can easily locate it? And if you run out of that chemical, who supplies it for you? And then, of course, you're going to put down the contact information and who you may contact for that, because there may be a certain person that needs to be notified that you need to replace it. And do you have an alternate supplier? Let's say that one there just don't have the supply anymore, or maybe they're using a different chemical that is not going to work for you. So do you have an alternate supplier, and how often is it necessary to refill these supplies? And of course, is it certified to be used for drinking water? So NSF approved. Then the pumps that are used to supply the chemical to your system. What is the name of that pump? Does the pump have a schedule to where you need to do maintenance on it, cycle it into a newer pump? And are the set points for operating the pump known? So if you do know it, you write down the set points for these pumps that you're using. And how often has the maintenance been performed to keep the pump functioning perfectly fine? And of course, you're going to want to document in the area of the date that was recently maintenance and the recent pump replacement. So do you have a pump replacement on hand, or will you need to order it in the future if it fails? So I believe we're now coming up to the tab that we will move to Jennifer Crow to talk about rules and regulation, or where are we at there, Jason? I've just been watching my notes.
Our next tab is going to be system maintenance, and we have about 10 minutes left slotted for today's presentation. So Jennifer, I'll let you take it away.
All right, so the system maintenance, this one just kind of goes over what maintenance are you performing regularly, how often are you performing that. As you can scroll over a little bit more, Jason, it just goes into who would you contact if something needs to be replaced, repaired, and then that contact information of their phone number, the website, all of that. You can go over to storage. We'll try and do this a little bit faster, okay, guys? So the storage, again, you'll just put the tank, the number, the type of tank, ground level, elevated, how many gallons it is, going over the tank level, the last inspection date, and then if there's any repairs on it, if yes, when they were and what it was, the last cleaning date, and then the date of it, of the interior coating and exterior coating. We like to know all that information. If you can go to distribution. So the distribution, this one, it goes over the transmission of lines, miles of mains, the number of service lines, the material, number of, let me see, so the number of mains, and then the per breaks. So is it the same place? Is it increasing? That's why you always want to put that kind of stuff on. How many feet of main are you replacing each year? And then the water main program. So like I said, how many feet are you replacing? If you just scroll down, Jason, it goes over the valves. So are your valves being inspected? How often? Are you exercising them, the location of them, and then the valve supplier? And again, you'll just put that contact information there.
And Jennifer, I want to add in as well, for the water system pipes, the new lead and copper rule revisions are coming out, and part of that is going to be water systems are going to be required to know their system inventory. So this number of mains and the material of construction for transmission, distribution, and customer service lines will be something you'll need to collect in the future anyway. So this tool will help you get ahead of that rule and have you prepared. So I wanted to share that.
All right, and then you can move over to that rules and regulations. So this one, it just is going over what rule. You can do a brief summary of the rule. Is it local, state, or federal? Does it apply to your system, your whole system, just parts of your system? You can also put in links directly to where you would reference the rule, including the rule number. And then I've even seen where people just put like an EPA link in there so they can go directly to where it is. If you scroll down a little bit, it goes over permitting. And then, so it'll go over permitting. So what type of permit needs to be obtained? Where do you get it? Does the permit require renewal? How often, or where you would get that renewal? And then it just goes over the address, the website of where to get it, that phone number. And again, if you scroll down, it goes into the waste deposit. So this goes over to what type of waste. Is it flock from your treatment, unused chemicals, sludge, how many, the volume of it, what you're producing per day, and then the disposal method. Is somebody coming to pick it up? Are you guys disposing it? And then you can also even put in there again, like how it's being disposed of, and all of that information of the contact information, how often it's being picked up. If you go over to tab 15 or sheet 15, which goes over technology. So this one is just the programming, the description, the install of the program, or is it just an online access? Do you need a license to purchase it? Or again, is it just online access? How much does it cost? How often are you using it? You can put the location of manuals, instruction, job aids, anything like that to help in the training process, and then additional training. And so this one is really going over what kind of software that you're using for your system. If it is the SCADA, if it's just Microsoft, you can add all of that in here. So for the operator certification, so in this tab, or like I said, sheet, whichever one you want to use, is going over. So what level is required for your system? Is it a T1, D1, T2, D1? You can add all of that. The renewal frequency, so when you need to renew your PDH hours, how many you have or how many you need, and then you can put the renewal contact information. You can also do a program name, program location, and website for training opportunities. And then if you go over to the neighboring utilities, so this one is going over system contact. So that first column is just a system name, contact person position, everything like that. And then it goes over the email address. And then if you scroll down, it's additional information of that system. So are your systems interconnected? Where's that interconnection located? Do you have any emergency agreements with them? When should they be contacted? How far in the system? When should they know? And also what type of treatment or chemicals are they using in their system? Especially if you guys are interconnected, you want to know that information. So everything you also fill out in these columns are automatically going to be linked back to sheet 4 under people, like Jason was talking about earlier. So don't forget that. So if you click what it says the neighboring sheet, and then so the last one is just additional information. If there's anything at all that isn't covered in the first 17 tabs, you can add additional information into tab 18. And always remember at the top, it says return to the handoff checklist and return to the table of contents. So you can go back at any time in any tab to go back and make sure that you know where you are. Like Jason was saying, if you need to stop and come back or something like that, you always can. And all of these sheets are also always editable for your system. Don't forget that, like Jason again was saying earlier, if you're not trading or something like that, you can just put like NA or something. Again, you know, don't just leave blanks, but I would always put that NA in there. And we really hope that this is really great for, again, like we're saying, if you're retiring, training, or just sanitary surveys, this is all information that we look for when we come out and for you guys to know your system. Thank you. Are there any additional questions?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, are there any other questions from the audience? I see some over here and some have been answered. So one question, Lori Zito, is there a robust lead and copper materials survey evaluation tab? No, there's not in this one. That'd be maybe specific to the rule as the new rule revisions come out. But for the sake of this, you know, doing that materials inventory is actually going to be a requirement of that lead and copper rule. So it really is, you know, you have 17 miles of asbestos cement pipe, which goodness, I hope not, you know, but what I'm saying is those are the things that you'll need to know, you know, and a lot of the systems are out there. I'd say in Arizona, the majority of the build out has happened from 1980 on. So I'm going to hope that there's not a lot of lead service lines out there in the state. Okay, that's one of my hopes. And it's not like you know, we refer to Flint, Michigan, of course, a lot. That was just a devastating situation, and you know, that's one thing we hopefully try to avoid. You know, but I don't think Arizona has those particular problems because, like I said, the population boom happened here from 1980 on. So a lot of those systems are newer and not lead pipe. So newer generations tend to jump careers for better pay very often. Older generations more loyal to their jobs. I agree with that statement, and I have seen, you know, being in the municipalities, I've seen operators jump for $1 an hour. And honestly, you know, I try to say to people, hey, you know, look at the overall benefits package that you're being offered. You know, if you're going to leave here for $1 an hour, is it really worth it? You know, those are the types of things. And I say, you know, it's up to the utilities really to value their operators and to really, you know, have that good, like for the remote operators, have that good contract in place So you know what you're getting, and they know their services they're supposed to be providing. All right. There's a significant overlap with the risk and resilience analysis that the EPA mandates and a suggestion on how to leverage these similar efforts. So the risk and resiliency, that is an EPA rule. So doing that plan is really, it's not delegated to the states to do that. This tool, again, it's not a requirement. It is simply a tool for you. And when you do your risk and resiliency plan, that would be, you would link that in here to say, yes, I've done the plan, and here's a copy of it. Here's a link to it, right? So you'll have that in there. All right. Well, everyone, again, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this 1 hour webinar today. This is part of where we're going. ADEQ, we're going to be doing more and more of these. They seem to fit in pretty well, and people can usually accommodate about a 1 hour schedule. So this webinar will be available again on our website soon. It has been recorded. And again, follow the links. The EPA does a really good job in doing a much more in-depth understanding of how to fill out that tool. And it's not something you need to submit to us. This is totally your tool to use for your benefit. So again, thank you, everybody. Again, if you need anything, AZOpsCert at azdeq.gov. You can also get me at bobco.jason@azdeq.gov as well. All right, have a good day.